We now come to the next food item that makes use of microbes, and that is bread. It is one of the most popular breakfast in many homes. So how is it prepared? It is prepared from wheat or maida. You must have seen that we get two types of bread. That is, one is brown bread and the other is white. So the brown one is prepared by making use of wheat, and it is brown in color or brown bread. Whereas the one which is white in color is made out of all-purpose flour, that is also called as maida. Dough is formed by mixing baker's yeast. Baker's yeast is called as Saccharomyces cerevisiae, which is a type of fungus. So Saccharomyces cerevisiae, that is a fungus, is used in the preparation of bread. Along with it, water, salt and other necessary material are also added so as to make the dough for bread. Saccharomyces cerevisiae is a rich source of B vitamins, chromium and selenium. So it provides us with certain micronutrients which are very essential for all metabolic activities, and Saccharomyces cerevisiae provides us with all these essential nutrients. It helps in breaking down fats, proteins and carbohydrates for energy production. Yeast bring about fermentation of carbohydrates. So yeast brings about the fermentation of carbohydrates. We have studied this in anaerobic respiration, and it takes place in absence of oxygen, and it results in the formation of carbon dioxide, ethanol, and along with it we get two ATP molecules. So when we were studying respiration and how energy is produced, so there we had studied that when it is anaerobic respiration and it is brought about by yeast during fermentation, and it's going to produce carbon dioxide, ethanol, and along with it we get two ATP molecules. The number of ATP molecules was less because the oxidation is going to be brought about in absence of oxygen. So it helps in breaking down the fats, proteins and carbohydrates for energy production, and it brings about the fermentation of carbohydrates. Sugar is converted into carbon dioxide and ethanol. Dough rises due to carbon dioxide and makes the bread spongy. So we know that all bakery products, may it be bread or buns or cakes, all are very fluffy and spongy, and that is because of the carbon dioxide gas that is given out when the carbohydrates or the sugar in it is converted into, or it is broken down to give you the products carbon dioxide and ethanol. So carbon dioxide, being a gas, causes the dough to rise, and that makes the bread and other products very spongy. So this is how Saccharomyces cerevisiae looks like under a electron micrograph. And Saccharomyces cerevisiae is a species of yeast, that is single-celled fungus. We have seen the uses also, that is this species of yeast is used in wine making, baking, as well as brewing, and all these uses have been there since ancient times. Now, where is this fungus found? It is believed to have originally isolated from the skin of grapes, and you must have seen a thin white film on the skins of some fruits like plums. So it exists there, and along with that we can even see yeast cells primarily on ripe fruits such as grapes. So it's not an airborne, but it requires a vector to move. Now you can see the shape of the Saccharomyces cerevisiae here also. It is some cells you find that they are round, whereas some of them are ovoid. and the size is of about 5 to 10 micrometers in diameter, and it reproduces by the method that is budding. We had studied this method in asexual reproduction in unicellular organisms. So Saccharomyces cerevisiae is a unicellular organism which reproduces by the method that is budding. And you get Saccharomyces cerevisiae readily in the market in the form of dry yeast. And if you take a few grains of this yeast in warm water along with a little sugar and then keep it for about half an hour, then take one drop of this and observe it under a microscope on a slide, you would be able to see the organism undergoing reproduction through budding. So we know how a bulge is formed, and karyokinesis and cytokinesis takes place, and a new yeast cell will be formed. So this is all about Saccharomyces cerevisiae. Let us now see what are the various uses of yeast. Compressed yeast is used in bakery industry. We will see how compressed yeast looks like and how it is different from granular or dry yeast in the next slide. So compressed yeast is used in bakery industry where we make bakery products on a very large scale. Industrial production takes place of various bakery products like breads and cakes, buns, etc. So there the yeast which is used is called as compressed yeast. Available in dry and granular form for domestic use. Now this compressed yeast is even available in dry and granular form, but this form is basically used at domestic level. That is when we are doing baking at home. So we make use of dry yeast. In the earlier video, we had even seen how to activate this dry yeast in warm water for about half an hour along with sugar. So the yeast gets activated, and this activated yeast is then added to various products that we make at home, that is bakery products. What are the contents of yeast? Carbohydrates, fats, proteins, vitamins, minerals. Hence, products prepared using it become nutritive. So all major nutrients are present in yeast, and hence the products that are prepared using it obviously become very nutritive. So these are the three uses of yeast: vinegar, soya sauce, and monosodium glutamate. Monosodium glutamate, that is MSG, and it is commonly called as Ajinomoto, are used in Chinese food, are produced by microbial fermentation. So vinegar, soya sauce, and monosodium glutamate. All these are very common ingredients when we are preparing any kind of Chinese food. So all these are prepared using microbial fermentation. We will study about vinegar as our next substance in detail. Some information about monosodium glutamate I would like to share with you over here. Unlike common belief, Ajinomoto is not an ingredient itself, but is a food and chemical corporation based in Japan that uses its name as a trademark for its original product, monosodium glutamate. So we generally refer Ajinomoto, but Ajinomoto actually is monosodium glutamate. And Ajinomoto is a food and chemical corporation that is based in Japan, and it uses its name as a trademark for the product monosodium glutamate. So Ajinomoto is actually MSG, that is monosodium glutamate. It is a salt widely used in Chinese cuisine to enhance flavors, hence popularly called the flavor enhancer. So with this, we come to the end of uses of yeast and some more items that are making use of microbial fermentation. So this is how the compressed yeast looks like, and you can see it has been compressed so as to form blocks. So compressed yeast is fresh cream yeast, and from it all the water has been removed and then it is compressed to form small blocks. And this is the most common form of commercial baker's yeast. Whereas this is dry yeast, you can see small little granules of yeast here, and it is called as granular or dry yeast. We have already talked about the function of yeast, that is to bring about fermentation, and its major role is to convert the carbohydrates into carbon dioxide and ethanol, and the gas brings about the rising of the dough, which makes the breads and cakes very light and soft and spongy. We have even seen how nutritive it is because it provides us with all the important nutrients, and therefore it is highly nutritive. Lastly, unlike active dry yeast, the compressed yeast does not require activation. So this is one difference between the two. We have seen how to activate it in warm water, the dry yeast granules, but compressed yeast does not require activation. So this is what is the two types of yeast, that is compressed and active dry yeast.